Many pundits have been saying this should be the best ever championship. I feel like we've been saying it every year for about the last 5. The best ever championship of the year, and that was before anybody had raced at all. Airwaves Ducati, a brilliant job from them through testing in the winter. They went down to South Africa, put lots of miles on the bike, lots of miles on the HM Plant Hondas as well for Kianari and Carl Harris. All the top men are fit. Carl Harris still, though, with a little legacy from the end of last year with that ankle injury that he had. Rizza Suzuki, a little bit at sea as far as suspension and the like was concerned here as well. Parts very late in coming for that team. And a big surprise is Dean Thomas on the front row, though, because the Kawasaki's were late in getting their bits as well. Under orders then for the first British Superbike year, and away. HM Plant Honda up in the air. That was a big mess from Carl Harris. He got it all wrong there. Carl Harris launching the bike up, but the Kawasaki in the second place. But it is an Airwaves Ducati out front as they drop down and dip it up to Drew Druids for the first time. Tony Carter is with me here in the commentary box.
Leon Haslam has already stamped his wares out on this championship gig. He's the first person out of the blocks. He's flying away. He's setting the mark already. Dean Thomas, big slide though.
It was Haslam who had the big slide out of Druids. Big black line, and he's paid for it as well. The Hawk Kawasaki goes back and place number 1 is through Gregorio Lavia. My money, I have to say, was on Lavia at the beginning of this race. Tony Carter's was on Haslam. That's why Tony was so upbeat from the beginning. But with 30 laps almost still to go, we're about to come round to the end of lap 1. There is a long, long, long way to go here at the moment. Watch out for the charge behind for third place at the moment. Looked to be like number 3, Michael Rudder, coming through into third place on the Stobart Honda. Michael Rudder has so much to prove, and third place already. Let's take another look at this start then. And Carl Harris,
Harris is entering a wheelie competition off that line.
Well, that was a feature of the Fireblade, of course, when they first came out 2 years ago, the snatchy clutch. But in this particular situation, we didn't expect Carl Harris to launch it skywards. The two Airways Ducatis are just away at the front at the moment. Michael Rudder in third place, Carl Harris in fourth place, having recovered from what, by his standards, is a pretty poor start. We're at Clearways, almost at the end of lap 2 of 30 laps around here. They're going to be turning to cheese.
Gregorio Lavia has just closed right up on Leon Haslam in the space of a lap. Now that was a good 10 bike lengths there.
I just think the guy has got such brilliant racecraft. The man to watch out for, though, my other money was on Michael Rutter. Michael Rutter back on Dunlops now, of course. The two HM Plant Hondas, the HM Plant Honda that he rode before was on Michelin's. I'm sure psychologically Michael is happier to be back on Dunlops. I don't think there's a lot between the two tyre manufacturers anymore, although Dunlop will argue vehemently about that, particularly. Well, you've got to look at the Airways Ducatis out the front. I think Dunlop last year did a brilliant job. They started the season perhaps with Michelin maybe thinking that Michelin were going to throw some really good tyres at the series, which they did, but Dunlop brilliantly responded, and at the end of the season I think Dunlop had the advantage over Michelin. So it was a superb tyre war year last year too. Looks like they've started pretty good as well this year.
Yeah, not bad at all. Leon's going to be getting the hurry up though from his pit board as he goes past.
Good news, no jump starts as well, so we've got a clean start as far as my monitor is concerned. Race director Stuart Higgs has given us a clean start. 91 leading this race, Leon Haslam. This psychologically will not do Leon a lot of good because he got a great start, settled in fairly quickly, but Gregorio Lavia, his teammate, is right upon him. And the one thing we do know about Gregorio Lavia, his racecraft is second to absolutely none out on this racetrack.
He's a complete class act.
Someone's
down already.
That looks like a Yamaha of
Tommy Hill.
Tommy Hill on the Pirellis. First outing, of course, I was about to say that a bit earlier on. The Pirellis have come into the British Superbike Championship, and that is the first time we've seen a Virgin Mobile Yamaha all year, and it's hit the deck. Tommy Hill out. Had such a great warm-up this morning as well. Looked really good in those iffy conditions that we started the day with.
He was saying he was chasing some side grip with those Pirellis, though, and it looks like it's come to bite him on the bum.
Well, frustration, of course. This is his home track. He only lives down the road at Lingfield near Oxted in Surrey. Meanwhile, Darky's coming out the rear end, and that's Ollie on the left. Yes, hello, Ollie. Good morning to you as well. Ollie waving alongside her is Colin Wright.
No waves from Colin Wright, though. Did you notice that?
Yeah, but you watch. He'll have his teeth shining at the end of this. If he gets a 1-2 at the opening race, that will have been the 25-odd grand that they spent in going testing in South Africa earlier on in the year. That'll be money well spent. When you've got an over £1 million team out on the racetrack, why waste your time testing at Snetterton, Knock Hill, Croft? Not that those are bad racetracks, just that British weather conditions aren't conducive to some decent testing. And the Airways Ducati boys really did invest. Darryl Healy put his money up, and off they went on the South African Jolly. Most people will have thought. As up the inside goes Carl Harris. Carl Harris at Druids takes Michael Rutter. Great move from Carl Harris. He's got to do something about these two. The HM Plant. Who would have thought that Carl Harris, all right, not a newcomer to Honda, but a newcomer to the HM Plant garage. He's moved up as Michael Rudder moved out. Harris moved up into that team, and he's the man that's been setting the mark here at Brands Hatch over Chianari.
Yeah, and Chianari, Gregorio Olivier, though, just goes through on Leon Haslam. So Greg is budging his teammate out the way at Clark Curve into clearways, get all that drive all the way through, and now we'll see what he can do as he pulls the pin.
Okay, hand the money over, Carter.
Not yet, long way to go, Ewan.
Stobart Honda back in 4th place now as we look to Keogh. Keogh, of course, here started her run of 12 wins last year here at Brands Hatch. He won both these Indy track races. Now, the man I've been most impressed with in qualifying is Jonathan Ray, as my rotund friend gets out of his seat here as Keogh gets it waggling up into Druid's corner. But this man, 65, the Red Bull rookie, remember he's on the rookies program, came up with the Superbikes last year, raced here as a 17-year-old last year. He's only 18. Jonathan Ray is a star of the future, and I have to say he went about his qualifying this year absolutely meticulously and maturely, so watch out for Jonathan Ray. Meanwhile, the boring Airwaves Ducatis are clearing off out front.
And as is Carl Harris away from Michael
Well,
Rutter.
this race is all about Carl Harris as far as my viewing is concerned at the moment. Carl Harris, he knows he's got to work very hard after that iffy start that he made, and now he's got to work so hard, work those Michelin so hard. Of course, Michelin's, they might just work a bit better with a bit of heat in them around here. The early laps, of course, not a great thing as far as I think the Michelin's work not quite as well when they're cold, so they might come to their own as this race progresses, and that's going to be the important part of this. Lavia has the fastest lap, 46.8 I think it is at the moment. 45.9 I think is a lap record around here, so a little bit of a way to go till we get on lap record pace, but of course it is still cool. The wind is still blowing, thankfully, because that's keeping the rain off us.
Gregorio was saying yesterday, Keith, that he was quite confident in the tyres up till about lap 20, and on lap 24 then there was a lot of slip, then there was a lot of sliding that went on.
Well, this is my point as far as the Michelin versus Dunlop war. We go on about it, it's a great thing to go on about. As that man on Dunlop's Michael Rutter throws it into Druid's corner as well. Plenty of commitment there from Rutter as he chases his former motorcycle. There it is, the HM Plant Honda of Carl Harris. Harris is the one that's got to dig in here. He can actually make it, he's got lots of time. The thing I like about Carl Harris, he's a fighter. He's as fit as he's ever been as it is at the moment. He's lost a little bit of a weight. There's been a wager, I think £100. Well, now the whole team have joined. I think there's a few £100 going on the fact that Neil Tuxworth and Carl Harris are fighting to be the slimmest and the lightest between them. Neil Tuxworth, of course, the HM Plant Honda team manager. I know he doesn't have to be that light because he's not riding, but Carl Harris is a big chunky lad. But he's been training heavily during the winter. His ankle injury has kept him out of a lot of road work out on the streets, but the fact is that he is fit, he is light, and he is determined. 3rd place he won't settle for.
No, definitely, and this man here, Chianari, will not be happy either. Managed to find his way past Johnny Ray.
Indeed.
But quite a flip side of fortunes for the HM Plant boys, and like you said earlier on, it's just not what you would have thought going into this round. If you were going to write a script, it wouldn't be this way round.
Dean Thomas, bike number 12, is down in 7th place. Shane Shaky Byrne on the leading Rizla Suzuki is in 8th place now. So Byrne is a racer. James Hayden, looking down the list, is in 12th place. James Hayden, and I'll tell you what, there are 2 men in that Rizla Suzuki camp that are absolutely going to fight tooth and nail to the end of this year. I don't know 2 men that are more determined to try and get a result than those 2 in one team.
Yeah, definitely. But that's a situation that James Hayden historically has had around him before when he rode in the Red Bull Ducati squad years ago with John Reynolds. The pair of them didn't really get on. They got on extremely well now, which is good as JR's in the senior management of that squad. But you're absolutely right, with James Hayden and Shaky Byrne, that's going to turn into a bit of a personal war. I'm pretty sure of that.
Well, personal wars, of course. Neil McKenzie, my partner of last year, I hope he's having a good day so far down there in the Rizla Suzuki camp. But Neil McKenzie last year, he always used to argue with me when I used to say the first person to beat is your teammate. I think he was being a bit politically correct because he was a bit that way. The fact of the matter is you have to beat your teammate first and foremost. I mean, that is your yardstick. That's what you're measuring your performance and your motorcycle against, because no one else in the race has one quite like it. So the fact of the matter is you want to be the first Rizla Suzuki, you want to be the first HM Plant Honda, you want to be the first Airwaves Ducati. And then at the moment, once I get to my long-winded point, it is, of course, Gregorio Lavia that seems to have both the motorcycle and psychological advantage over Leon Haslam at this opening race.
I'm not so sure about the psychological advantage, Keith. I think Leon's mental armour is pretty much there.
Well, I think you're right. Leon's really matured very, very well, but I think it forced him last year into a couple of manoeuvres that well, they were a little bit effy, a la Cadwell Park, of course, when they both ended up on the grass. I think it turns into desperation about mid-season when you're wondering whether you're ever going to be able to beat your teammate, which Leon is quite capable of doing if he can settle down at it. He's had a real good winter test. Johnny Ray we're looking at, bike 65, up behind number 2 Keogh, who's getting away from him. This kid, 18 years old, last year he could hardly hold a glass of water in his hand at this point of the year. He was absolutely shaking with nerves. This year he's relaxed, he's composed, and I've got to say that he has done the Red Bull Rookies program along with Honda a superb justification. He's really made that program look good.
Well, you know, the Red Bull Rookies, they actually brought a mind coach over. He's a guy who looks after a lot of elite Red Bull athletes, and they brought him over to work with him.
We could do with one of them. They can have a look for my mind and see if they can find it. Dean Thomas under a lot of pressure here. Number 12, Dean Thomas, he was on the front row of the grid. It is James Hayden that's looking for a way. In fact, it's Shaky Byrne who's looking for a way past him.
Oh, that was tight.
Laverty is behind them. Michael Laverty on the Stobart Honda, the Paul Bird entered motorcycle. And then looking down behind them, it's Glenn Richards on the Hydrax Honda. That's nice to see Glenn Richards in the frame as well. Richards in 10th place on the Hydrax Honda. Still, Michael Laverty's another youngster that I rate very, very highly, and this is not a position I expect. I think it was my prediction before we even came on air that Michael will win races this year. Of course, Michael Rutter, his teammate, is away at the front at the moment, and that for Michael Laverty will really give him the hurry up for round 2 at Donington, if not race 2 today.
Although he can take heart from the fact that he's just behind Shaky, the bike's moving around.
Oh dear me, that made me jump for a split second then. Up the inside, Byrne. Great move.
Just muscles him out of the way.
Well,
it's jump up the inside.
I'll tell you what, he banged that old curve with his knee fairly hard as well, didn't he, Dean Thomas?
Don't think Bam Bam would mind that at all.
No, probably not. Probably would have hurt him less if he banged his head on it, though. Number 1, Gregorio Lavia, leading majestically from the front. The opening round of the Bennett British Superbike Championship. Gregorio Lavia lead from Leon Haslam. Then we have Carl Harris, 1.6 seconds off of Haslam at the moment, so we've got to keep an eye on that gap. 1.6 seconds from third place man Harris, and then if we move back through, Chianari in 5th place.
Laverty coming out of clearways, looks like he's got a fantastic drive along the start. Can he push Dean Thomas out the way just as Shaky Byrne has? No, not this time.
You've got to be impressed though how the Hawk Kawasaki is going as well as it is. That ZX-10 is about a minute old, it's only just been born. It's only just arrived really at the Hawk Kawasaki base up at Mallory Park in Leicestershire, and I'm just amazed at how quick they've got the thing on the pace. You know, lots of rumours flying around at the moment. Hawk Kawasaki, one of the least funded teams of the works teams out there. You've got to feel for Stuart Hickin, the team owner. You know, he does a hell of a lot with a very little budget.
Yeah, well, Dean was saying just at the Snetterton test last week how good the bike actually fared out of the crate and how similar to last year's ZX-10 it was able to feel, although obviously a completely new motorcycle. So he's already given the Kawasaki the thumbs up, proving the point here.
Dean Thomas, a great qualifier, we know that, but in the race he's just slipping down the order at the moment. Michael Laverty surely, well, he didn't make that stick. I'll tell you what, Michael Laverty looks a little nervous with that motorcycle, just lacking a bit of commitment for sliding up the inside, and I think that he really needs to force it a little bit harder than that. He needs to make that pass, and I'm sure that wasn't beyond him just there at Paddock Hill Bend, but he's erring on the side of caution. He'll know more about how that motorcycle feels under him than certainly I do, and he just seems to be a bit cautious. And of course, Glenn Richards is closing in now. The other Aussie is sliding in on the Hydrax Honda, and really, the Stobart Hondas won't want to be beaten by a Hydrax Honda. Middle of your picture, JR, former British champion. Behind him, Neil Mackenzie, multiple British champion as well at Superbike level, and there is the Suzuki team. Well, they're all keeping an eye on Shane Byrne. He has manfully moved that motorcycle up to 7th place in front of Dean Thomas. And you can see how far away they've got now, as through has gone Michael Laverty on Dean Thomas. Dean Thomas is slipping back to fellow compatriot Glenn Richards, who undoubtedly is going to make a pass on Bam Bam as well. As we come up towards Druids, you can see the other Rizza Suzuki. That is the Hydrax Honda of Glenn Richards. We got a shot of James Hayden closing in on this lot as well. So Hayden must consider this track to be a home track. Also, he's a Buckinghamshire boy and a new dad.
Young Zach, born 3 months ago. And James hasn't stopped smiling, has he? Every time you see him, he's got a big fixed grin on his face, and he'll show anybody pictures on the mobile phone of his new addition.
I'd like to see a shot of Colin Wright at this moment in time as well, because I think he'll be smiling like a baby too, as far as his performances are concerned out on the track. This is, well, they might have came here last year thinking, well, I mean, they modified their thinking as it happened halfway through the season, but at the beginning of the year they were here to try and make this work for 2006. But they ended up walking away with the championship courtesy of Gregorio Lavia, who was basically subbed in.
So Ryuichi Kiyanari is right on the back of Michael Rutter now, closed right across the timing strip there. They're just 0.08 of a second separated them. Now on track, they're virtually together. You could throw a big blanket over them. So Kiyanari looking to redress the problem.
Yeah, indeed. Lavia comes across the line again. Do you know what? His fastest lap that he set on lap 2 is still the fastest lap of the race. Incredible. Lavia just pumped that fastest. Oh! Down goes Haslam. That is a big off.
My goodness, and that was quick as well.
I'll
And the
tell you
box
what,
seemed to just let go.
that bit him. We saw a rider in the earlier race get bit in exactly the same position there at Paddock Hill Bend. On the way in, that really did grab him big time. So Leon Haslam, his mum Anne is downstairs below us in the commentary position here, and I've got to say Anne will be horrified at the sight of that. She'll have been watching it on the monitor. Ron Haslam, his dad, is here as well, Rocket Ron Haslam. Leon Haslam, as I'm looking out the commentary position, he's still down. He looks to me like he's winded. We'll get back to that in a moment, but that was a big off as he was round Paddock Hill Bend and on to Halewood Hill. There it is, yellow flags being waved there. Michael Rudder and Kiyanari battling out on two Hondas, set up probably completely different. If you remember, the Stobart Honda boys, Paul Bird decided to go a different way as far as the technical side of things was concerned compared with HM Plant Hondas, and that was because he wanted to develop a motorcycle that possibly could compete in a different way with the full works factory teams.
You know,
Red flag, we've got a red flag. There's a red flag out, so we have a red flag. So that incident with Leon Haslam has called us a red flag. Well, that's an interesting situation because there's a new set of rules for getting this turned around very quickly indeed. There's a brand new set of rules. They can hardly do anything with these motorcycles. They come into pit lane. Once they've come into pit lane, they have got, I think, 3 minutes. The race director can call 3 minutes, and then the pit lane will be opened again, and they will have to leave within 30 seconds or start from the back of the grid on the restart. So it's an incredible set of new rules to turn the bikes around very quickly. It's very unusual to have a red flag because they obviously still have pace cars here. They have incident cars, but Leon Haslam, the race director, Stuart Higgs, has deemed it being necessary for a red flag so that they can attend properly to Leon Haslam, who crashed just a lap and a half ago at Paddock Hill Bend. So as we wait to see exactly what's going on, in fact, I was getting beyond myself. We have covered enough race distance to make that a confirmed race distance, and so Gregorio Lavia will be the winner of the opening race, and it probably in the worst and ironic way possible, because Lavia wins courtesy of Leon Haslam, his teammate, laying in the sand at Paddock Hill Bend, something that Gregorio will be very, very concerned about indeed. He wouldn't have won it like that at all. I know that he'd already got the beating of Leon Haslam. It would have appeared out on the racetrack, but of course the race is never over till it's over. The opening race of the 2006 season is of course the Bennett's British Superbike Championship, and race 1 was won by Gregorio Lavia. Carl Harris comes through into second place. Michael Rutter on the podium on the Stobart Honda for the first time. Ryuichi Kiyanari, Jonathan Ray, Shane Byrne, Michael Laverty and Dean Thomas are our top 8. 9th place, Glenn Richards, James Hayden, Gary Mason, Ben Wilson, Sean Emmett, Scott Smart and Ollie Bridewell round out the top 15 point scorers, with John Kirkham just outside in 16th place. Leon Haslam then entering into Paddock Hill Bend, loses the rear end after asking for the power over the high side. He's spanked onto the tarmac, rolls through the pit gravel trap and to the barrier. And I can tell you, after being briefly unconscious, he's now conscious, on his way to the medical centre with a minor